Welcome everyone to the second of two about this new series I've started. I say series, sounds a bit grand, Art at Home. I was very much inspired by Home is Where the Art Is. That's going to be up for a year at Zeitz Mocha, and particularly with lockdown, how we're all at home more, and how it's easy not to notice what's on your walls and just quick jig round or getting something conserved, as we learned last week, can really make a huge difference. And I hope to follow this up with perhaps studio visits, particularly to more affordable artists, and generally encourage us to support local talent. I'm undecided what to do next. Michelle Matthews, after the last one, said, why don't we do a WhatsApp group? I know Facebook groups can work really well, but some people won't go near Facebook with a barge pole. Anyway, please do let me know. I do think, despite my technophobia, I might do another Zoom series. So if you've got any suggestions on who would be good to talk to, I'm thinking maybe conservatists, that's come up quite a bit. And maybe a gallerist. I've got a picture here of a friend of mine who loves her print. Some of you may recognize the artist, even though it's above her wood burning stove in her kitchen, and it's already showing bits of soot. Anyway, I'm really thrilled with the lineup, because Brett's going to tell us more about hanging art and where not to do it. After Arisha's demystified buying at auction. I have to say it's the most terrifying thing I've done. At Strauss, I inherited a little bit of money from my Aunt Joyce and decided to go to an auction here in Cape Town. But it was worth it. It was very exciting. And then something I never really thought about is the artwork I bought, getting it from Strauss to home, what happened if my water spilt on it, or what happened if I had a car crash or something. So thank you, Gail, who's going to tell us about do's and don'ts of insurance. Then, as I mentioned, Brett's going to chat about hanging, and then Tami, some of you all know because she's been to a few Culture Connects, like at Element House. She's going to give the story of her collection to inspire us. There's going to be lots of time for comments and questions. So like last week, we really loved all the feedback we got, and Craig Sweetley is going to be monitoring that and monitoring the time. So please don't hold back, and any question, if you think it's really quite basic, ask the speaker after their turn, so to speak, or at the end.
I'll start with sharing my screen. Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm Arisha. I work at Strauss & Company. I'm one of the art specialists. I've been with Strauss for 5 years now, and I've got many stories and lots of things I want to share about the art world, but we do have 10 minutes, so I am going to rush through everything. But if you have any questions, or if you'd like more information, I will share my email address and I'll be happy to elaborate on anything. But this is going to be sort of like a 10-minute crash course into sort of auctions in South Africa. Okay, so I like the fact that we started off by saying that there's this idea that auctions are quite intimidating. And I mean, this is a picture from one of our auctions pre-COVID, when we could still have a nice full room full of people bidding and telephone bidders, and it was a very exciting time. Sadly, I don't think we're going to see an auction room like this for a while, but this is typically what you think of when you think of art auctions. Here's just another sort of view of, you know, people crammed into a room, all excited, using their paddle numbers, auctioneers. And I must say, being sort of part of the background and the staff, it's a very exciting time. But I can understand that being in that crowd with a little paddle, scared to sort of scratch your nose or stand up, it can be very intimidating and quite nerve-wracking. But really, it isn't that way, and the auction world has sort of changed since COVID. So now this is what our auction room looks like. It's an auctioneer standing in front of a camera and a screen in front of him with the bids popping up. So now sort of the advantage of what sort of working from home has done is it has sort of introduced, which was around before COVID, but it's definitely forced people into sort of the virtual auctions, which you can basically sit from home and place your bids, and you don't have sort of that nerve-wracking feeling. You can bid at auctions from the privacy and comfort of your home. So Strauss and many other auction houses now do what we call virtual auctions, and this is pretty much what it looks like from the office. So you have an auctioneer and he goes through the auction lot by lot in front of a camera, and it's live streamed. And then if you want to bid on a painting, you'd be able to bid from your computer screen. We also have online auctions, which hopefully I'll have a bit of time at the end to show you, because we do have an online auction currently running, so I can kind of take you through what it looks like, where to bid, how to register, and things like that. But so before I get into how an auction works, I first want to sort of contextualize where auctions fit in the art world. So here's quite a simple diagram. You've got your artists, and if you just look at sort of the middle line, you have your artists, which then go to your galleries and your dealers. And then from the galleries and the dealers, they sell the artworks to the buyers and the collectors. And then the buyers and the collectors ideally keep it in their collection for a number of years, enjoy the paintings on their walls. And then when you're ready to sell those paintings, it then goes to an auction house. So when you get your artists in your galleries, that's what you call your primary market. So your primary market is sort of the primary place where you would get the artworks. The auctions are known as the secondary market. So sort of a way we sort of phrase it is sort of secondhand. You know, once it's already been owned, already been in a collection for a while, it then goes to auctions. Artists consigning directly to auctions, we don't usually do, because it is, you know, galleries represent the artists. I mean, there have been cases where artists have consigned directly to auctions, most famously being Damien Hirst. He was famous for going directly to an auction house. So there are cases, but it's not our primary source of where we get artworks from. The same with the galleries and the dealers. So mainly our main source of where we get artworks from is from buyers or collectors. So people who've had it in their collection for a while, and people sell for various reasons. Maybe you wanting to change up your collection. Maybe you inherited art which you don't particularly like, so you'd rather sell it and buy other things that you would like if you're downsizing, if you're moving over to a new country, or so there's many reasons for people selling art, but that's when it comes to the auction houses. Okay, and then the next question that we commonly get asked is, how is art valued in the secondary market? So a very, very basic example to sort of explain how it happens is we look at an artwork. So this piece is a print by Sam Klingetwa. We would look at the print, we would look at if it's signed, where you would see it's a little zoom in of the signature, it's got the title, and it's got what we call an edition number because it's a work on paper. And what we would then do is look at other works by the same artist. And this is quite an easy example to show how we value artworks, because he did a series of these works called tributes. So he would do a tribute to various artists. And it's quite a common series from the artist. So we know that these works sell between the range of 18 to 24,000. So we would see that, okay, look, we would track back at previous auction records, and we would see where his work sells at, and based on that, which is then technically based on what the market is saying and what buyers are willing to pay, we then set what we call auction estimates. Obviously, this gets a lot more technical when you're dealing with original works. You have to look at sort of the medium of the work, the subject matter of the work, the condition of the work. So there's a lot that goes into valuing a piece of artwork. But to put it more broadly, we track the market of the artist. We look at the size, we compare the size and the style of the work with comparable works, and that's how we come to agree on an estimate. The main, or I was told that the main thing that people need to know is sort of the lingo, or what's the wording used in auctions, because I think that's the first part of being comfortable. Is if you understand all the terminology, you'd be a lot more comfortable in terms of attending auctions and bidding at auctions. So auction estimates, which I've just explained, is the range at which we value the artworks. So when you look at an auction catalog, you won't see a set price, you would see an estimate. And that's the range that the auction houses, and that's my job at Strauss as well, is that's the range that we would say this work would be priced at. A reserve, all artworks selling on auction have a reserve that's set by the seller to make sure that they are not selling for under what they want to get for the piece. The hammer price is what the work sells for. So at the auction, when the gavel goes down on a price, that is what we refer to as the hammer price. On top of the hammer price, you pay a buyer's premium. So that's what that is. And then when you're selling an artwork, you get a seller's premium. So, or seller's commission rather. And that's
Arisha,
sort of standard.
Thanks. Just 2 minutes to go. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try speed up. Okay, and so this is sort of a standard across all auction houses all around the world. Bought in is the term referred to a work that hasn't sold at auction. So if it goes up on auction and it goes unsold, or you could say it passes at auction, the sort of term used is bought in. A paddle number is when you register to bid, you obviously get a paddle in which you bid. And a lot number is the order of the work. So the works go up on auction and you get from lot 1 to lot 300 or however many artworks are in the auction. So we refer to them as lots. Instead of artworks, it's a lot number or a lot. And provenance, which I've sort of bolded at the bottom, is probably the most important term to know. And provenance is basically the history of an artwork. And this is very important in terms of when you're buying art. Like I said, it's usually come from various collections or one collection. But it's important to trace back who had the artwork, where did they buy it from, and basically track it back to the artist. Okay, here's just an example of auction estimates. So an auction estimate would look something like 10 to 15,000. The reserve is usually, it's usually confidential, but the reserve could be a bit lower than the estimates, but that's obviously the price that the auctioneer has to reach in order to sell the work. And a hammer price, for example, would be 10,000 Rand, in which case your buyer's premium would be added. And if you're a seller, the commission will be deducted. So very quickly, 3 tips on buying art at auction. So first and foremost is do your research. Don't be in a rush to buy. You know, there's a lot of available information that you can get out there. Look at auction results, go visit galleries, go visit art fairs, and also go look at art books and see what you like. Secondly is buy from reputable sources. And I cannot emphasize that enough. Make sure you buy from reputable galleries, auction houses, dealers, and keep your invoices, because all of that adds to the provenance of an artwork. And thirdly, always buy what you like. Don't follow sort of trends. Don't be influenced by somebody saying, oh, this is a good investment. Trust your gut and always buy what you like from a reputable source, and always do your research. And then finally, just a quick tip is art books. And one of my colleagues, Wilhelm, has probably got the best art book collection ever. And art books are so valuable and hold so much information. And just 3 quick books that I would suggest that you look at. 7 Days in the Art World. It's a very nice read. It's the author basically takes a trip through the auction houses, the galleries, the art fairs. It really is an enjoyable book, and it gives you a good sense of the art world. The Art of Buying Art is also, it's quite a nice book. I got it from Exclusive Books, and it gives you a few good tips on how to buy art, how to do your research, where to look for certain things. And finally, Art and Artist by Esme Berman. We sort of use it as our dictionary at the office. It's basically highlights all the South African artists, and it gives you a nice A to Z on the bios of most of our artists. So those are sort of 3 books that I would suggest, but obviously there are endless books that are very useful. And I hope I've made 10 minutes, but there is my email address and our website. If we do have time at the end, I would like to show the online auction, just to show how you bid and go about that. But I know we're strict on time, so you can let me know at the end.
Yeah, that could be fun. Maybe after, some people can peel away at 6:30.
Yeah.
God, thanks so much, Arisha. Not easy summarizing the process.
I could probably talk about auctions for 10 hours straight, but that was my 10-minute version.
As you've done your master's on it at Wits.
Yes, I've recently submitted.
Market.
Any
burning questions before we move on?
Just one I'm going to mention. Others are more comments, but actually this is 2 in a way, but it's from Philippa Duncan. I would also hope that the auction house confirms that the edition of a particular work has sold out. Otherwise, this confirms speculating and is often detrimental to an edition and that particular artist.
Sorry, I'm just reading the question. Is it more comment? As the auction
Yeah.
firms? Yeah, I mean, on auction, obviously all of everything that we sell on auction is sort of available, especially on our website. You can actually see all the artworks that we've sold, and we obviously catalog. So that's one of the things that we do is cataloging. And you obviously catalog each edition number, the size of the work, all of that. So all the information is obviously captured. And yeah. What are the typical premiums for buyers and sellers? Just to quickly mention that, it's I must say we do have quite good commission structures. So for our online auctions, it's 15%, and for live auctions, it's 12%. I'm not sure about other auction houses, but they are usually quite in line. And why I say it is really good is, overseas you can be looking at, or sort of in major auction houses, you could be looking at much higher commission rates, but ours are, I think, really reasonable.
Great, over to you, Gail.
All right, so my name is Gail Bosch, and I head up the Artinsure division of iTOO. Artinsure itself was started by the founder Gordon Massey in 2008, so it has been around for a while. I joined Artinsure in 2012, so it's been almost 10 years that I've been working with it, and I must say I've loved it. My background is insurance, not art, so I'm definitely getting into the art world. Kate did ask us to include some of the collections that we've got at home. Unfortunately, I've just recently moved house and it's all beautifully packed, and I didn't want to risk unpacking it until I was ready to hang it. So I think I need to speak to our next speaker after this. But this is one of the artworks. If you have a look, this Norman Catherine, I love Norman Catherine, is one of the first pieces that I've bought and will be one of the first pieces to be hung. So I have a special love for him. Onto the insurance, this is, and I'm sure everyone will agree, it's a passion. People collect because they have a passion for it, because they love it. It's not necessarily a logical thing, although sometimes it is. But, your collectible insurance should be covering, appreciating assets. And I'll go through some of the more of the details of that. But basically, the difference is that we're dealing with appreciating assets. So we're not dealing with cover like TVs and fridges where it's easily replaceable. You can get the value afterwards. We're dealing with one-of-a-kind pieces. They generally appreciate in value, although at different rates. And one of the things to consider, especially at the moment with the Rand, I don't want to say weakness, but you never know what's going to happen with the Rand. And quite often these artworks are pegged to the dollar or the pound. So it is very important for clients to check that their valuations are reflecting the, the international currency fluctuations. Okay, so there was a high net worth survey that was done to ask why people collect. And the number one reason, and I think it's even more prevalent at the moment because I've seen an increase, is capital appreciation, is, to have an artwork that is an investment. And only number 3 is the joy of ownership, although I would argue that that should be number 1, because whether it's appreciating or not, as Arisha mentioned, you should buy something that you love. You never know if it's going to appreciate or not. It's not a done deal. Our policy generally includes theft and accidental damage up to the sum insured. You need to check that it's not sublimited, because if you've got an artwork that's valued at 5 million rand and you've got an accidental damage limit on your contents policy of 10,000, you're not going to get very far. So we have got an art theft register as well, which I believe that the auction houses do check against to make sure that nobody is selling any stolen artworks. It's free to everybody to contribute. We don't charge anything for it. We do manage it. So if anybody has had an artwork stolen, you're welcome to contact us and we'll add it onto our art theft register. Damage. Accidental damage is a large portion of our claims as well. Typically how our policy would handle it is for our collectors, and I'm differentiating between collectors and commercial. The client has the choice whether to declare it a total loss or not if it's been damaged. So if it has been damaged and it's purely investment, then the client can say, I declare it a total loss. We will take it as salvage and pay out the agreed value. Agreed value is vital. And that's also where Strauss and other companies would come into to do professional valuations. If the client decides they do want to keep it, then we will arrange to get it restored. We'll get it restored. We'll get it revalued post-restoration. And the client will get their restored work back along with the monetary amount so that they're back in the same financial position. This is not something that normal contents policies do. Here's just some examples of some claims that we've had for accidental damage. You can see over here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, there's a tiny little ear from a giraffe. It is tiny. But post-restoration, when we did the independent valuation afterwards, it was determined that following the restoration, the artwork had depreciated by between 25 and 30%. So even small damage can have major impact. What you should be looking for in your cover for insurance, number 1 is that it's at agreed value, so that you're not trying to figure out what the value is after you've had a loss. Valuations are vital, as I said, for this. So we would ask for a valuation from a reputable, valuer such as Strauss. It should include all physical loss or damage, not sublimited to theft or sublimits for anything like that. It should recognize depreciation following a loss. As I said, if you get it revalued and the value's actually gone down. And then we also encourage our clients to do the evaluations at least every 2 years. And if we've got a valuation that's less than 2 years old, then we will also recognize the appreciation that's happened since the valuation has been done up to 20%. So say, for example, it's insured for $1 million, it's been 8 months, it's now actually worth, 1.1, then it would be paid out more as long as the valuation is less than 2 years. And that is our effort to try and get clients to revalue, because we often get claims where the client has got a valuation from 1990 something, and although we'll accept it and we'll definitely insure it at agreed value, the client is losing out because it's definitely appreciated since then. If a client has a cover with, has a policy with us, then we've got a new acquisitions portion of the policy, which would give the client, because as you know, these auctions happen in the evenings and on weekends, 30% of the sum insured, that they can buy works that would be automatically covered, and then they can let us know within 30 days to add it to the policy. We do work with professional restorers and framers. We do cover transits and we do cover exhibitions. Okay, so some of the different kinds of products you can get, private and corporate collectors would be at agreed value. Here's my list. This is what's covered and this is what it's covered for. And it works very similarly for museums because it's not fast changing. But for art dealers and auction houses, it wouldn't make sense for us to do it at agreed value. So we would do it at a different kind of basis of valuation. For an auctioneer, for example, we would insure it at the midpoint between the high and the low estimate that Arisha mentioned, so that we've got a pinpoint of value. And then once the hammer goes down, then the payout would be the hammer price. Okay, some hotspots that we've picked up that have been hotspots for a while. Forgery, and this is optional cover that can be taken out. It's not normally standard. You can insure against unintentionally buying a forged work, or defective title, being your title to the work is defective because it's actually owned by somebody else and it's been stolen. So in short, it would be buying stolen works from a reputable dealer inadvertently. And transit damage, particularly during lockdown. I mean, there's been extended periods where it's been kept in docks, as everyone's known, you know, there's delays everywhere. And the longer the delays, the more likely that the damage will occur. Okay, so I did mention agreed value, and I'm sure I've mentioned it a few times, and I'm going to mention it a few times more, because as long as we know beforehand, agreed value is very simple for the claims process. We all know what would be paid out if there was a claim. Another value that evaluation would provide is an image, because often if we've got people that want to add works to the art theft register and we don't have an image, a clear image of the artwork, we will get, you know, a family photo around the table, and in the background somewhere is the artwork, and then you've got this horribly pixelated little portion of the photo that you can put on the art theft register, because as you know, once it's stolen, you're not going to get a photo of it. So it's very important to make sure that you've got your works documented beforehand. It makes it a lot easier to do the tracing if it has been stolen. Here are some other basis of valuation. As I said, the auction estimate would be between the high and the low estimate, but it could also be consignment. I mean, if you've consigned it to somebody else, then your agreement between you and the person that you consigned it to could be a basis of valuation, as could cost price or selling price for a dealer, so that we don't have to update every single time something's bought or sold. Some optional extras that would be available but not necessarily required for everybody would be entrustments to third parties. If it needs to go for cleaning or framing or for any other reason, and it needs to leave your premises, then you need to have that cover at other premises. So that would be something you need to tell your insurance broker about. I've mentioned defective and fakes and forgeries. Transit cover we can also do standalone, and we do quite frequently. I mean, you bought something, you want to get it home. It could even be an international buyer that just looks for the transit cover from where they've purchased it to get it safely home, and then time to put it onto their own policy. Fairs and exhibitions, I wish they were happening more. I've seen them happening more and more overseas, but I think South Africa still has a little way to go before we get back to Turbine Art Fair, Joburg, Art Joburg, Cape Town Art Fair, all the rest of the fairs, where it's so great to get together and see and speak to like-minded, passionate collectors. And the last thing that I'm going to leave you with is a little quick video of always expect, because I'm in insurance, is always expect the unexpected, and I'm hoping that the sound does work.
Seuraava kohde on Min dynastian aikainen Aasis.
Why is it not playing?
500 000. Olkaa hyvä, tehkää tarjouksia. 600 000 siellä herraa. 700 000 puhelimessa. 800 000 rouhaa. 900 000 puhelimessa. 1 000 000 siellä herraa. Tuleeko muita tarjouksia? Ei tule. 1 000 000 ensimmäinen. 1 000 000 toinen. 1 000 000 kolmas.
Fortunately, not a real ad. Not a real event, but it could happen. And at that circumstance, because the hammer had gone down, we would be paying out that $1 million. So from me, thank you. I hope I was within my time. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So how does insurance work? Because we have a piece, it's a contemporary artist, and to replace that piece would cost far more than I think what the piece is worth on the market, if that makes sense.
We do it at agreed value for that specific reason, because it's so difficult to determine. Yeah. So you would need to get a valuation, and an invoice, a purchase invoice would work as well. So if you've got a professional third-party valuation that says this art, and it's what's the word? A very educated but still subjective valuation from somebody who knows the art world. I mean, we're never going to get it pinpointed exactly, as we know when you sell it, it's not going to be to the cent. But we agree that, and if we agree something at 10,000 Rand and it's insured at agreed value for 10,000 Rand, if something happens, we will pay out 10,000 Rand.
All right. Okay. So it actually it doesn't necessarily matter what it's worth on the open market versus having it replaced by the artist.
Correct. And it could also be a difference of, because it's not replaceable. You can't replace it. Yeah. It's your financial interest that's involved in the insurance.
Thanks.
what happens if a stolen artwork is found after the insurance has been paid out? And we have had situations like that. So in that case, we would have paid out the client and then we recover the artwork afterwards. The first thing that we would do is offer it back to the original owner. And we would offer it back at what we paid out, not necessarily the market value, plus interest. So if it's been 8 years and it's now worth double, we would still offer it back to our client at what we paid out with the interest. They can decide if they want to take it up or not. I think in the collector world, 95% will say, yes, we want it back. In the sort of commercial gallery world, not so much, because, you know, we've got our money. It's not that you know, personal collection.
The other question from you, Kate.
I was just curious, which artist did the vase with the giraffe here?
Sorry, say, oh, the giraffe. Oh, that was a, oh my gosh, it's just Ardmore vase.
Ardmore, okay. Yeah, very valuable. So some of you may notice the image that I used a lot for last week's Zoom, of Philippa changing her walls that she does at least once a year. And Brett is the person who does it. And then my friend Joe Anderson sent me what to think. I've just had them around. They're brilliant. And I know you're really busy, Brett. But thank you very much for sharing tips on what to do and not to do.
Oh, thanks for having me, Kate. I think when we first spoke and you said to me you'd like this to be more informal and to have people share some of their own art from their own houses, I thought that was quite a nice change, you know, because it does make it a bit more personal, and I don't know anybody who wouldn't want to share a little bit of their art with other people. So, you know, that's refreshing, and that's going to come up just now. I'm going to have a slideshow with some of my personal art and just some information about that. In the meantime, my name is Brett Deacon, and I own a company called Picture Hanging Services. We operate in Cape Town, but also all over South Africa and abroad. We have been overseas about a dozen times for special clients, but most of our work is localized. People often ask, why do you use professional art installer? There are many reasons. I mean, I could talk for a long time on that topic, but let me just touch on some of the more important, as I consider them to be, issues. So if we take one being testing your walls, wall detectors or wall sensors, when you draw into your wall at home or in a gallery or anywhere, in fact, there's a good chance that you're going to draw into something, whether that be piping, cabling, electricity, water. These days, plastic piping is a big problem that is not detectable by regular hardware store detectors because it's made out of PVC piping, sometimes slightly different versions of that. We use very special testers. We use 3 or 4 testers on each team, and they are using radio waves. They are able to detect plastic pipes. It is still in its infancy, this technology, but it's the best we've got at the moment. These testers are pretty expensive, and it's not something you're going to want to go and buy just to hang your pictures at home. It's just not cost effective. So that is definitely something, and a very important part of what we bring to the table. The other parts would definitely be, we are a neutral party in this concern. So when we come into your house or your gallery or your museum or your company anywhere, we offer a neutral perspective, an opinion on what everyone else is thinking and saying. Often there can be many chefs in the kitchen. So we need to simplify and decide on one course of action. It's easier for us to do that because we're not personally involved. So we see things from an outside point of view, and we can just make comments or suggestions based on the frames, the artwork, positioning, placement, and layout. I have, like I said, I could talk about things for a week. There's a lot to say, but in terms of what's happening right now in trending, I would say for us in the local market is picture collages or picture sets is never going out of fashion. People love putting up sets of pictures on their walls. It's memories. So whether it's family, pets, vacations, or sometimes formal artwork, Philippa, yes, we have saved a few marriages in the course of our history. That being said as well, we are 32 years old. My dad, Denzel Deacon, founded this company 32 years ago in 1989. We were the first picturing company in Cape Town, and we are just trying to maintain his standards and quality of service and work. And as we push through, he has now retired and I've taken over, and we're just trying to do his name justice. I'm now going to, okay, let me just finish the collages. So when you do a collage, you have many different options you can choose by. People always ask us, what is the best way to do it? There is no best way to do it. It often is the leftover pieces of art that you have from moving several times, from being in different collages or different walls. You can take these pictures and make an eclectic set pretty much anywhere, anyhow, depending on how you want to do it. If you want to, and you have the budget to do so, you can go and buy specific pictures, say from Woolworths, the Tenery or Country Road selection of frames. That can work out expensive, but it can be visually very pleasing. It just depends on your budget. But picture collages are definitely one of the things we do most, and we love doing them, to be honest. I'm not going to show you any pictures of work we've done this time, because we are focusing more on our actual my own art. But yeah, we have what I think is some stunning pictures of some installations that we've done, but we'll do that another time. So what I'm going to do now is just to try and start a slideshow, and I'm going to talk about some of my own artworks and some of the artists that I've received them from. If I can do this. Okay, so this is one of my favorites. This is a Laura Feldman, and it is titled Figure Study in Bedroom. Laura is one of my favorite artists. I love her work, I always have, and I've always wanted to acquire one. Recently, because she has immigrated to the UK, she came back and we did some work for her, and actually bought this off her easel. So I was very chuffed with that. And it's hanging in I have an open plan home, so I don't have a lot of wall space. I have to make a plan. Luckily, the hanging part of it is easy. And so this is where she is this is a close-up of the actual work. As you guys know, you cannot do justice to an artwork with a photo. You want to see the texture, you want to actually feel it. But if you could see this close-up, you would see the paint on the actual frame, and I absolutely love that. Okay, these are Gail Catlets. Again, personally met Gail, a lovely person. I went there to get one piece of artwork and I walked out with three. Hey, what can I say? She said these three must go with me. And again, you really cannot get the true vibe of these pictures from a picture. If you guys know Gail, her work is almost alchemy. It's made with different chemicals, and when the sunlight, the sparkles and comes alive. It's just, you cannot capture it in a picture. I've tried, but I can't. Okay, my little Bumbuertas. I love animals, I love cats. I have 4 cats and a beagle, so this is very relevant to me. So there's the 2 little small pieces. Right, this is also one of my favorite artists. This is Benelli Koza. You guys, I'm sure have heard of him. He was exhibited all over the world at SATS as well. This is one of his digital prints. It's titled I Have Accepted That I Have Changed. I just fell in love with it. To tell the truth, we actually went up to Joburg and installed the gallery hang system in his gallery. And that is when I personally met him and just fell in love with his work. When I got back to Cape Town, I ordered 2 of them. This is the other one. So this is another one of his works. He is so diverse, I would have a hard time selecting, and I would definitely buy more. I absolutely love everything he does. Okay, another favorite of mine. I mean, they're all favorites, really. This is Wagley's Cafe and Observatory. It's from John Kramer, who's definitely up there on my list. Again, I've been very privileged to meet him, and he is a very talented artist. I've probably never met anyone that has his skill set. He can pretty much do whatever he wants. And I don't know if you guys know, but he's recently had an exhibition as well at the Prince Albert Gallery, and his new works are absolutely amazing. So check that out if you're looking for something interesting.
Thank you, Brett. Two minutes to go. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Like 10 minutes goes quick. Okay, so I just threw this in here because I'm a firm believer of every piece of art does not have to be valuable. It can be memories as well. This is from a trip to the Caribbean. It means something to me, myself, my family, and it's on the wall as that. Okay, this is not good art. This is memories that I bought at a previous time in my life, which meant something then, and it no longer sort of means the same thing. So it gets relegated to the collage wall, high up the double volume areas. Hopefully this can be replaced with better art at some stage, but for now it's the overall impression that I'm going for. Okay, Christian Rousseau, deepest, darkest gallery. He's one of my favorites again. I'm going to say that a lot. We did his inaugural exhibition at the Castle of Good Hope, probably back in 2013, somewhere around there. And he actually gifted me this piece a couple of years ago to say thanks. And it was, he's a really cool guy, and his work is amazing. If you don't know his work, check it out. Okay, so this is something a little bit unusual. We're talking about home stuff. So this is my daughter's room. The zip line that you see at the top there is a way of displaying kids' art. So parents, you'll know you get a lot of kids' art. This is just a way of getting it up on your walls and letting your kid express themselves with their artistic stuff. Okay, and that's just, this is something we do as well. So it's a manner of displaying. Okay, this is something else that we do. It's a kid's art frame. So you can actually display your kids' art. So this is just a side note. Okay, so here we have, for me, it's not always about hanging art either. It doesn't always have to hang, it can stand. It can become a part of your visual unit. So here we have a good example of a very eclectic mix of things. And I mean, Nguni, I love Nguni. I mean, they have a special place in my heart. I'm not sure why, but I do. Okay, and here we have the collage. You know, I gotta have one. This is something I always talk about redoing one day. For the moment, I'm adding to it, and this is a typical weathered frame or reclaimed frame that I can get from many places, and it's just memories on the wall for my family and my time. That's it. I'm going to close up the slideshow for you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Brett.
Pleasure.
I've got two questions. One that's just a quick answer. Sabine would like to know, say that name again from the artist who was at the castle. Didn't catch it.
Yeah, Chris, that's correct. Christian Rousseau. As Philip has correctly put in the comment line. And I think he's at Deepest Darkest Gallery in the right country.
Lovely. Michelle Matthews asks, Brett, I've been thinking about lighting some images, but also wondering whether it's advisable. Will it damage the work over time?
When you say lighting, oh, you mean with normal incandescent lighting?
I suppose the question would be what kind of lighting and in which.
You need to be careful with lighting. There is proper lighting that you can purchase for artwork, which has reduced UV and cannot do UV damage to your artwork. This can be quite expensive, but otherwise the lighting shouldn't damage your pieces as long as it's not directly overhead or right in front of your artwork. But certainly if you turn it up a notch, you're going to want to go for proper art lighting.
Great, and then I'm going to ask two quick, very practical questions from Sabine. What about fixing the holes in the wall if you move art? That's the hardest part, and it's what stops me from rehanging art.
Okay.
And then another one is, what about dry walls and weight? Where are the limits?
Okay, good questions. We get them all the time. Firstly, when you move house, you're going to have holes in your wall. We don't, for instance, use Hilties. A lot of people do use Hilties. If you go to the hardware store, you're going to be asked, how do I hang some pictures? And they're going to give you Hilties, just because there isn't another inexpensive option. The reason we don't use that is because it can damage your wall when it goes in or when it comes out. And that can leave big holes that you have to deal with. We personally choose to drill 3mm holes, and we use masonry nails for light objects, and then we use wall plugs and screws for heavier objects. We do this in such a manner that we're left with a clean hole in the wall. We can patch this up. It becomes a very small dot on the wall, which can be just touched up with a bit of paint, not even painted. I'm talking about just smudging it with your finger. At the end of the day, you can hardly tell that there were holes in the wall. And then just touching on your drywall, okay, there is a weight limit that you can put onto drywall, but it's a lot more than people would imagine. We've hung probably 120 kilograms on drywall before. We do this by displacing the weight over various hangers. The 120K was probably displaced on about 14 different hangers. So you're taking 180Ks and dividing it by 14, and that's a more manageable number to put on the wall. Obviously, it can be a lot more complicated than that. It depends on the actual wall, how it's constructed. There's different types of drywall, and there's different types of fittings. We like to use umbrella plugs, which go into the drywall, open up, expand, and hold the weight. And there are other options on the market. We are testing some others at the moment, and we try to stay on top of the curve in terms of technology.
I think we should move on to Tami, if that's okay. And please, Brett, put your contact details in the chat.
Will do. Thanks, Kat.
So Tami, while you're sharing screen, is an interior design and project manager, has her own business, does work all around the continent. So she is involved professionally, but I asked her to focus on her art at home course. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation, Kate. Good to be here. Happy Women's Month, everyone. Okay, I'll just get started so we don't waste too much time. I don't want to talk about, my company or anything. I'll just dive right in. I suppose I would attribute my mom to my interest in art. I grew up around a lot of art in my home, particularly Nigerian art, from ebony wood carvings to paintings by renowned Nigerian artists. And it also included African-American art as well. She's from Nigeria, but we grew up in Northern California. She knew quite a lot of Nigerian artists, Jamaican artists, as well as artists from Oakland, California. And so we had a lot of pieces from these artists. They were both her friends, and she was also interested in collecting. And one such artist was Barrington Watson. He was from Jamaica, and he did this portrait of my mom in 1973 when he visited Nigeria. He also wrote a book, Shades of Grey, and he mentions my mom in the book. No relation to 50 Shades of Grey, by the way, the movie. But he wrote about my mom in the book, and I'd like to just maybe read a little bit from it. It tells you a little bit about my mom, as well as the art scene in Nigeria in the 1970s. She changed the subject to that of the program, and she had arranged with national TV. I was to have an informal discussion with the moderator and two of the other artists on the art of Africa as seen in the West. The hostess was a young woman in her late 30s, a product of a traditional marriage, African marriage. When she was 12 years old, she had been married to an older man who had other wives. She was afforded a good and proper education before she bore him two healthy children. She later expanded her horizons to London, where she studied television and management, and in Rome, where she studied fashion design. She was always smartly dressed, whether in Western garb or the traditional African costume. She was a woman of style and taste. There are lots of dignitaries, chiefs and their wives, directors, executives, and many people in the variety of professions, such as artists, engineers, doctors and lawyers, architects, and interior designers. Many others who worked with the National Broadcasting Corporation attended the affair. They were all Nigerians. I was introduced to almost everyone, and I felt that each African outfit was even more intricately designed than the previous one that I had seen. So basically, we knew a lot of artists, to cut a long story short, and she was, I would say, the first collector in the family. And a lot of the pieces that I have in my home, I inherited from her. I started collecting art, I would say, in my 30s, and it coincided with when I started my interior design business. And as an interior designer, part of my scope of work would be to find art for my clients. So I got to know a lot of gallery owners, visiting a lot of galleries, while also knowing some curators and sourcing art for my clients, learning more about the artist. And then that's how my interest grew. And that's when I started to collect art. And this was my first piece that I bought from a gallery in Nigeria by Tola Wewe. And I got this at the same year he painted it in 1996. Then over the years, I caught the bug, and then I started to be interested in attending auctions. I was more fascinated with just what goes on in an auction. Not that I was going to really bid for anything, it's always sort of intimidating. And it's also the opportunity to be able to see private collections from private collectors that are putting their work on auction. And this was my favorite purchase from an auction, and it's from Maya Angelou's art collection. And it was an auction through a gallery in New York. I registered online and I selected about 5 pieces that I was interested in. But really I was just playing around because I really didn't expect that I'll be able to buy any artwork from Maya Angelou's collection. But I just wanted to just see what sort of art she had. So of course, the first 4 pieces that I had my eye on definitely sold way past my budget. But this last piece, I was able to get. It's a portrait of Bessie Smith, who was a jazz singer, African-American jazz singer in the 1920s. And it's by Richard Yarde, who's an African-American artist. So there was a long pause when we were bidding, and I had done the 3rd bid, I think. And then like Arisha said, the hammer, hits, and it was sold to my bid number. So I was quite pleased, needless to say. It did take a long time before I could get it back to Cape Town. And the funny thing is, a friend of mine in New York went to pick it up in the gallery, got on the plane to Cape Town, left it in the taxi. Luckily his flight was early. He went to the lounge. The taxi driver knew that he was coming. It was on British Airways. I just couldn't, he shouldn't have even told me the story actually, but it made it to Cape Town. All right, I don't really consider myself an art collector. I don't really fit the typical profile of an art collector. And I don't-
Let me just letting you know, 2 minutes to go. Thank you so much.
All right, and I don't really buy for investment purposes. I buy because I like what I see. And I don't buy because, there's popular artists' works that are, trending. I just buy what I like. Okay, all right. Yeah, so most of my pieces are from African artists, from Nigeria, Ghana, DRC, South Africa, Uganda, as well as African-American artists. And incidentally, a lot of my art is of women. It's a friend of mine that actually brought that to my attention, and I didn't really realize that. So it's actually a nice opportunity that I get to talk about my art during Women's Month. I actually Googled with my friend, why are so many women figures the subject matter in art? And maybe that would answer my question why I'm always buying portraits of women. So we Googled that and we read an article on symbolism, gender, and sex. I can't remember the name of the author, but it did say that the symbolism of women in art actually transforms over time, depending on socioeconomic periods or eras. It actually changes how people view women. And generally, women in art are a positive symbol of innocence and purity and possibility, as in this piece by Jeffrey Mukasa. He's an artist from Uganda. Also, many align women closely with nature, as Kamati. And in this piece, artist Cow Mash, she aligns herself with, the female cow, and she creates self-portraits of herself. And in this, she's the nurturer as well as the superhero. She has the power to think for herself and to make her own choices. And I bought this piece at the Cape Town Art Fair in February last year, 2020. And I was sort of imagining that, the subject's 2020 vision for her future would align with my vision for 2020. But little did I know that this was the first sign of wearing mask of 2020. I can't really advise on collecting art as an investment because I don't really do that. I can only advise as an interior designer. And what I tell my clients is just start out by doing a lot of research, go visit galleries and visit Masters of Fine Art shows, art fairs and auctions, read up on the artist, find out where they did the residency, where they exhibited last, which private collectors own their works or institutions own their works, and also maybe how much their pieces sold in the last auction. And then try to buy original pieces as well. But if you are going to buy prints or limited editions, to try to buy the artist proof or at least a limited edition that's no more than 25. And to start small, but just start, you can start buying and looking on Instagram, just anything that's affordable, just to get your interest and to understand or see what it is that you like. I think that's the most important thing for me, and not investment, and to follow your gut, because everyone has different tastes and you don't have to align your taste to what others are doing, just what it is that you like and want. And also try and elevate the art that you buy as well, put it in the right frame, put it in the right position in your house, and something that you can celebrate. And with continued research and experience, you'll start to develop a taste and eye for it, and then hopefully find things that have value in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really something that Maya Angelou owns. It's just great. We're spot on an hour. It would be really lovely if people, before they rush off and take pictures of all their favorite artworks for insurance, wanted to contribute to the conversation or have any particular questions. I know I'm quite curious about an online auction, and maybe at the very end, Arisha, you could show that.
I'll be happy to.
And please feel free to email me in the future, particularly how you want me to continue this. I'll do a blog on my website with some of the contact names like Brett's, but also conservatives. Craig, anything come up on comments? I don't think so.
No questions as such, just compliments for the lovely talk and showing us the beautiful pieces that everyone enjoyed. Yes.
I wondered, Brett, I don't want to put you on the spot, but what are your charges?
Okay, we charge 580 Rand an hour. That is for a two-man team, and that is expat. We like to use an average of 6 to 10 pieces an hour, because this is not an exact science. We never know exactly what we're walking into. To give you an example, yesterday we did an installation and we hang 40 pieces in 3 hours, which is well over that average. So it comes down to how long is spent on layout. If a client has some ideas of what they like, otherwise we go through all the options, and that can take some time. So it really comes down to the client. The artwork, obviously, if it's high up on ladders or very heavy, it can take longer. If it's standardized frames and if the hangers are modernized and ready to go, that also can save time. But that's the breakdown.
I'm wondering whether another time, if people would like to show what they have on their walls, if anybody up for that, because I'm just really impressed with the level of engagement. We'll be in touch by email, but just to say, if anybody's up seeing the most amazing small house in Rosebank where I live, I'm doing an Irma Stern tour next Wednesday morning. It's a very small group, and Nadia, the director, is just great and already making some changes while keeping very much being like a Irma Stern's house and her quite incredible African art collection. So should we finish, perhaps do slip away with the online Strauss? What do you think, Arisha?
Sure.
Screen.
Yeah, let me just share my screen. It's great timing because these auctions, while we do have them about maybe 10 a year now, roughly one a month. But just to show you, this is our website. Can you all see?
Yes, great.
Okay. So our website's quite simple and easy to follow. This is the auction that's currently on, and these are sort of inviting consignments. So if you would like to get a valuation on any of your artworks, you can just come onto our website and click this button to get an estimate, and it will send us an email. But just to focus on the auction, this is the auction, so you can kind of just enter it here. And we've got lots of different sessions. This sort of just breaks up the auction into, for Women's Month, we got a guest curator to sort of do a selection of women artists, which is quite a nice feature of this auction. We also have staff picks, which is also just like a nice little feature that we do to highlight our favorite artworks. In this auction, we also have a collaboration with R&B Talent Unlocked. And then with Welcoming and Art Month, it's a fundraising auction. So those are sort of smaller little parts of the auction. And the rest of the auction is sort of South African artworks and other items that you can have a look at. So this is sort of the first place you can kind of see what you're looking at. If you want to just start browsing the lots from beginning to end. As you can see, this is sort of the curated section. You know, one thing with auctions is you have a wide variety. I mean, each auction you've got over 100 artists featured and a whole lot of different price ranges. So from here, you can filter it based on the artist that you're looking at. You can browse through all the artists that we have on the auction. Like you can see, there are masses of artists. We've also got wine on our auction. We also do have a wine department. So you can search through the wine producers, through category, through the estimates if you've got a budget, or the auction sessions. So that's sort of how you navigate the site. You can also search through the sessions here. Just for interest's sake, we'll go through the prints and multiples, mostly because I enjoy collecting prints and multiples. And you can see what the starting bid is. So from here, you'll see in the black is the auction estimates, the starting bid, and if there is a bid currently running. These auctions run for a period of about 8 days. Here you've got a little countdown. So it started on Monday and it's going to end next week, Monday at 8 p.m. So the advantage of that is you've got a full week to go through the auction, look through all the lots. And this is sort of where the research part of your sort of buying comes in. You know, look through the auction, see what you like, look at what the estimates are, decide on your budget, and you've got a full week to look at that. Then you can place a bid. So if you are interested in this Norman Catherine, you can see the current bid is 12,000 Rand. So if I really want this piece, I can say, okay, the current bid is 12,000 Rand. If I want to place a bid, the next bid would be 13,000. You can click onto the work, see all the details of the work, all the cataloging details, the edition number, the size, including the frame, excluding the frame. Once you register to bid, this button will become a bid button. You'll be able to click it and see what the next increment is. So the next increment will be 1,000 Rand. So meaning the next bid would be 13,000. So you can, you know, consult your bank accounts, see if you've got the money, and then you can place the bid. If you get outbid, you'll get notified by email and SMS, and then you can log back in and place another bid. There is also an option to set a maximum bid, which we call a commission bid. That means if you've got a budget of 15,000 for this piece, you can come in now, put in 15,000. It will only take the asking bid. If you get outbid, the system would bid on your behalf up until your maximum. I think that's more or less how the auction runs, how it works. I don't know if there's any specific questions people would like me to show you or take you through.
Fascinating, Arisha. Gail asked a question, how has the pandemic affected art buying?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I mean, you know, the pandemic started last year, March, and nobody knew what was going to happen. And we all of a sudden had to take our live auction, which we had all prepped for, which is the photos I showed at the beginning at the Wanderers ballroom with masses of people. And we had to put that online and do a virtual auction. And nobody knew how it was going to go, but we sort of had to go all in. And it turned out to be our second best sale. The pandemic has really pushed people online. We had been wanting to go more digital for a while, but obviously people were nervous about it. So the pandemic has really thrown everybody in the deep end, and everybody sort of embraced the online. People are very comfortable to bid at home. And it's also opened us up. We always had international bidders, but now we are even more global than before. You know, we did auctions with half the staff in Cape Town, half in Joburg. You can really be located anywhere to host the auction, to be bidding on the auction. It has really opened up our borders to be a lot more global. It also has given us the freedom to do a lot more auctions because it's now virtual and online. So the pandemic in a way has sort of given us that push that we needed, both the company and sort of collectors, to feel comfortable using online, using technology. So yeah, so the pandemic has had a surprisingly positive impact on auctions.
Thank you. Cindy asks, once you have made a successful bid, what's the process from there to delivery?
Okay, so once you've, so basically you're going to place all your bids at 8 p.m. on Monday. The auction closes. Just a quick thing, when the auction closes at 8 p.m., if somebody comes in and you've got the bid and somebody comes in at 10 seconds to 8 and places another bid, the bidding is extended. So we do factor for those last minute people who try sneak in their bids. But after all the bidding has been settled and you are officially the owner of the new lot, you go through a checkout process where you can check out online, and you can select your delivery from there. So you can either collect the artwork from the Joburg office or our Cape Town office, or you can arrange delivery to your door, but that would be an additional shipping expense. Any more questions? I'm going through. Am I ever the
last
lead?
Question that Kate wrote.
I am not an auctioneer. I prefer doing the telephone bidding, which is very exciting. That's when you sit on the phone with your bidders and you bid on their behalf. We do have 4 auctioneers at Strauss, 3 female auctioneers, which I must say is quite exciting, and 1 male auctioneer. So far I haven't tried doing any auctions. I'm not sure if I would enjoy it, but you never know. Maybe I'll try it.
Go on. Yeah, we'll be there. I think we should finish now. It's been really inspiring. I've loved it. I'm so grateful for all the speakers, and I hope to see some of you in person. I don't have any more Zooms planned, but let me know what you'd like. And Tami, fantastic. I had no idea, I promised you, that you had such a phenomenal collection yourself. and Brett, thanks for being up also up for this quite last minute, and I can see why people rave about your services. And Gail, who I met through Sanlam, Stefan, please let us know when you're in Cape Town, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. And Arisha, I think your career is going to be amazing. Have you had your result from the MA?
No, I submitted my master's in April, and I'm waiting for feedback. So very anxious, but I should be hearing any time soon.
And I look forward to in-person auctions and when you're in Cape Town again. But I do hope next year perhaps do Culture Connects in Joburg. And thank you to everyone. It's been super to have Diana in Portugal and Bettina in Germany, and Natasha and Wolsey. And as I say, let's just all enjoy what we have. And perhaps now we can look through a prism of the experts. And thank you very much, Craig, for moderating. Any final questions before we leave?
There's one last question, seeing you asked.
Oh, okay.
Michelle asked, how can one work out what the total cost of your bid is with the added commissions, etc.?
Well, the commission structure is flat, so it's 15% across the board for the online auctions, and that is charged on the commission only. So on your total hammer amount that you've placed, you can just add 15% commission, and then the VAT is on that 15% only. But if you ever need help with working out the total costs, I mean, our office is filled with helpful people, so you can always just give us a call or drop us an email, and we'll be happy to keep you updated.
Okay, great. So let me know if you want me to continue this, everyone. So I've certainly found just in this week, I've looked at art in our house in a different way. So all the best and happy enjoying our art and buying or selling or insuring. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.